Hello and welcome to 40 Minutes. Our history is stored in books. It's stored online, it's stored digitally as well, but it's written down. And books age, they decay, they often need care. Sometimes it really shows. And for things that are really ancient, they need something a little bit more specialist. Institutions like the Cambridge University Library are around to do exactly that. They preserve and conserve ancient manuscripts, and not just books. Things like the spitting image masks and beans from Charles Darwin's collections. And today's guest is a book and paper conservator. She looks after exactly those things, collections of items that are older than Shakespeare or more recent and need particular looking after. I want to find out how you get into that kind of business. I want to find out what inspires people to do that and where they take it, where they go. Why be a person who looks after ancient history? Let's find out. Let's put 40 minutes on the clock and meet today's guest, Emma Nichols. We've known each other for a while. We met at your MA showing.
I think so.
Which I think is correct.
Yeah.
It might not be, but who knows. And we'll get into some of that and history and life and stuff. But out of all the people that we've got for this little 4-episode pilot that we're doing, I think your role professionally is probably the one that people might be less familiar with. So whenever I think about your role, so you're a book and paper conservator at Cambridge University Library.
Yes.
Which means looking after books and paper, among other things.
Yeah.
What's it like working for what has to be one of the oldest institutions in the country, if not the world?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We're sort of quite behind the scenes, so we're slightly tucked away in the library. In fact, we're a bit mysterious even to people who work in the library. But yeah, no, it's amazing. Just the access to the collections that the university has is such a privilege because they have everything from Isaac Newton to Darwin.
Like actual Isaac Newton, he's just there.
Yeah, actual Isaac Newton.
He's in a pickled jar.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And there's Chinese oracle bones from 1200 BC, all the way up to the spitting image archive, which is obviously very modern, 1980s. Puppets, political puppets.
I loved Spitting Image.
Yeah.
It was one of my favourite things. I should not have watched it at the age I was when I did watch it. And it was, I hate to break it to you, but that's not a book.
No.
You are aware.
Yes. Well, yeah, we have a huge range of items, all different materials. And yeah, my title is Book and Paper Conservator, but really we're responsible for many different materials.
Like, presumably studying or training to look after books and paper is one set of skills.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was a video that went round and got viral attention of you cleaning Charles Darwin's bean archive.
Yeah. So a gardener sent dwarf kidney beans to Charles Darwin in little packets because they were looking at how they grew under certain conditions. So we have those as part of the Darwin archive, and I was tasked with cleaning them because they had a bit of mildew on them. So yeah, I took a little video of me cleaning them, and it was an ASMR hit, which was unexpected.
You got interviewed on the news for that.
Yeah, I did.
Of all random things, I have trained as a book and paper conservator. I am here to look after centuries-old manuscripts. Squeaky little bee. And that's what ends up on the news.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So the university library it's a private institution, sort of.
Yes.
How much stuff is there, just there? And what sort of like breadth of stuff have you got? And I say stuff because I'm a massive heathen and I don't know the appropriate terminology for anything beyond collections, but
yeah,
it is fairly broad.
Yeah, well, yeah, millions of items, billions. I think the tagline on social media is billions of words, millions of items, thousands of miles of shelving.
That sounds like my brain.
Yeah, thousands of years of human research and interaction. So, yeah, a lot.
It's sort of because what you do is it's not really heavily in the public consciousness. You don't see it
No,
all the time. You hear about
no.
novelists and writers, and you hear about people making films and see people on the news and things. But outside of J Blades and the Repair Shop, you don't really see people looking after
Yeah.
history. But it's really important.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the point. We're supposed to sort of go slightly unnoticed, the work that we do anyway. So we're preventing physical deterioration of cultural heritage and enabling access for current and future generations is our main aim. And yeah, so we're not restoring items, so we're not making them look brand new as they were when they were first made. We're respecting their history. A lot of our work is entwined with ethics and respecting the history and significance of what we're working on. So our repair, if we do remedial repairs, they're very subtle. They can be removed if needed. We're using up-to-date technology and materials, and we have to learn all about material culture, and it's a multidisciplinary field in that we're using art, science, technology, social science, humanities, all to work with these items for their longevity.
It comes from this, the combination of art and science is interesting for me. You did fine art and art history at uni?
Yes.
How do you go from studying art and art history to looking after books?
I don't know. I've always enjoyed practical. I'm very into DIY. I just enjoy
that.
enjoy practical work with materials. So an art degree just fit really well for me, and I've always enjoyed the history of it. So the two together as a joint honours was really great. So that was the combination. And then during my art degree, one of the modules was paintings conservation, which was facilitated at the university because the National Library of Wales has Conservators there. So
you went to Aberystwyth?
Yes, sorry, yeah, Aberystwyth. So I did this paintings conservation module and thought, oh, this is great. I love this. This is fascinating. Rang home to tell my parents, and my dad was like, yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because he's an archive conservator and always has been.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. So, yeah, people, when they hear my dad's in the same profession, they might think, oh, he sort of steered you.
Yeah.
No, found my own way. But it's lovely. It's lovely to share that with him.
He didn't sort of see that you going into conservation and went, oh, for God's sake, no.
Possibly. He didn't let that be known to me. But yeah, so...
My dad actively told me not to follow his career. He's a chartered surveyor, and he's like, don't go into surveying.
No.
Not because it's not interesting or good or anything. I don't actually know why. He was just like, don't do it, do something else.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. It took me a little while to find my way. I think I still am.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Aren't we all? It's very profound for us to go down that route.
Yeah.
But so having him as a contact must have been, if not convenient, useful.
It was very useful at the beginning because it meant that sort of discovering this world, I volunteered a bit with him in his workplace, and he does private work at home, so that was always going on around me. There'd be he'd be washing prints on the kitchen table after we'd had our dinner, and
I had images of him dipping little brushes and putting his spit on them like they do in the repair shop. That's my entire background in conservation, by the way, is watching the repair shop.
Well, it's a good programme. So just that was always going on around me growing up, but obviously as a child you don't pay much attention to it. So no, it was nice because I could explore that world through him to start with, and then once I'd gained a place on a master's degree, which is how most people come into the profession these days, through master's programmes.
It's not an apprenticeship sort of thing.
There is that route available, yeah. Yeah, it's nice that there is. Through history, there's been conservation kind of followed through bookbinding. Bookbinders would do repairs to books and bindings because they understood the physical nature of it and how it all worked. But yeah, it's interesting.
Is there something nice about books being interactive?
Yes, yeah, I love that. Yeah. So there's different strands of conservation. As I say, I did a paintings conservation module at university. There's things like furniture conservation and sculpture and ceramics and textiles. With books, they are functioning items. They have to move in order to work. So you're not just dealing with an aesthetic thing. Obviously, they are very aesthetic, but they have to function. So it's the three-dimensional mechanical aspect of books is really fascinating.
Yeah, I like that. It's one of the saddest things, but also one of the most pleasing things for me is the spine of a paper book, a paperback
The
book,
glued.
the glued bit,
Yeah.
and then like the creases down the edge when you've read it a lot. And you think
Yeah.
this has been loved, but
Yeah.
it's also about to fall apart.
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad.
Stone structures of books are just, such beautiful things. It's the glued spine is very sad.
One of the things that I remember from your MA show was seeing sort of cross sections of book bindings.
Yeah.
That, as a route into conservation, that seems really interesting. But it also it surprised me how many different ones there were.
Yeah.
Like learning all of that technique and skill, it is a combination between art and science, and craft comes into it a lot. Is there a part that's more important than the other?
Not really, no, because you're using things and they bring together, a book in it by its nature brings together multiple crafts, because if it's got leather on it, you've got leather tanners and the whole history of leather tanning, and then that can affect how the leather will degrade, what kind of tanning process it went through. If you have parchment leaves, that is a whole craft in itself. Producing parchment paper is a whole craft, and the production of ink. So there's such a variety of craft all coming together to make this one item, and every single item has its own history through all of those component parts.
Ink.
Yeah.
I worked at Wookey Hole Caves for a while, and there's a paper mill there, and we did paper making demonstrations. So I get the whole paper making side of things.
Yeah.
But why have I never thought about ink? Because I've thought about glue. It's like part of the rag and bone men coming around and delivering and picking up things, and off they go to make glue. I thought about that, but for some reason I've never thought about ink.
Yeah.
I now have to go and do a Wikipedia deep dive on the original manufacturing methods of ink, because I'm that level of sad-ass nerd. Are there bits of the career, do you think, that you look at and you kind of think, actually, that's really interesting, but nobody knows about it, and I really wish they did?
Every day, I think. There's just tiny details of everything, and like the threads used, how those are made, end bands, the colours of the silk threads for those, all the component parts that make something. Because usually, if you're looking at an item, if you're a student, you're potentially only needing it for its information.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking at the leather of the binding, it's the whole thing makes it so fascinating, and the history of the person who wrote it.
Do you wish that more people knew about conservation as a subject area? I
don't know, we tend to not be very, as a species of person, the conservator, as I said, the
lesser spotted conservator.
We do tend to sort of fly under the radar, because that's the sort of point of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I think just the general appreciation of our cultural heritage, we obviously all feel so passionately about that, and the funding and interest in that is so important. I think in the digital age, it's very easy to get very caught up in that. I mean, as part of our role, we facilitate digitisation of the material at the library, and that's fantastic because it opens it to a worldwide audience. But it's very important to not lose the physical item in that, because
Why?
Well, because it's the OG.
Yeah.
But also, we don't know, the preservation of digital is a whole new world that's challenging, because if you look in modern digital history, you've already got things that are redundant, like floppy disks, etc. So it's very easy to think, oh, we'll digitise this and then we don't need to worry about the physical item. Fact is, some of the physical items we hold have been around for thousands of years. It's very arrogant to think the digital copy will outlive that when we don't know what's ahead. So it's so important.
The rate of decay is an interesting one for me. I watched a documentary on, I think it was on Channel 4 many moons ago, in a whole other life, it feels, before I knew most of the people that I know now. That's not relevant. And it was talking about if human beings just ceased to be, if we just disappeared one day, what would be left of us? And all the modern stuff goes really fast.
Yeah, it does.
And they talked about CDs would disappear. It dates that episode, really, doesn't it? CDs, being in archival form, would disappear within 50 years. They'd just degrade and go. And that the last remnants of humanity would actually still be carved stone.
Yeah.
Some of the oldest things that we have now. That, I suppose, is why it's important to look after stuff.
Definitely.
If modern tools just disappear, it needs so much upkeep.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of power.
Yeah.
It's a bit nuts. But do you feel that with the digitization, I suppose, of things and predicting that rate of decay, is there a balance between the two? Do you come to, like, oh, we need to digitize this first because there's a risk that it disappears? Or do you go straight to looking after something?
Well, I mean, we photograph for our own records as we work. So we will take images before, during and after conservation for our own records. But the actual digitization, I mean, sometimes some things are so fragile that it is likely that any disturbance of them, it will damage them. So digitization in their current form might be the only option. But that, again, plays into the ethics of the decisions that we make, because we will consider all of that. There's no way that we would decide to do anything that will make something disintegrate. We weigh all of that up before we do anything. So if digitization is the only option for an item, then that's it. The only option. But there are things like multispectral imaging, which are brilliant, because if there are undertexts and things that you can't see, you can use different bandwidths of light to try and enhance those. X-ray, there's a project running where people are X-raying very tightly rolled parchment scrolls to try and capture the different layers, so you can piece together how it would be and how you would read it if it was unrolled, because the physical unrolling of it is just impossible. It
will just disintegrate.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because for two reasons for me. One, it's only possible because of modern technology, and the things we're capable of now are just nuts. But the other side of things, I suppose, is that somebody actually had the foresight to look at a scroll and think, if I touch that, that's going to go away, and I've got to wait.
Well, it would be a considerable amount of force usually with parchment. Parchment, if it wants to be in a shape because it's the skin, it's, you know, some of these scrolls have gone through.
My skin doesn't stay in that shape. I'm way too old for that now.
No, but because of the production method, some of these scrolls, if they've been through, you know, heat and water damage, they're pretty locked in their position. But yeah, we can just learn so much from them. There's another project running that I've been helping for at least 10 years now, whereby they're able to extract collagen from the surface of parchment and tell you what species of animal it is.
No.
Yeah.
That's what. Firstly, why? Why does that matter?
Well, it's interesting. It all plays into animal husbandry and location and date, and also us as conservators. We can learn more about, should we want to repair something? If we know the species, do we choose like for like materials or choose deliberately not? So it all gives you more information on everything.
If you're looking after something that's made on animal skin, do you repair it or not repair it? Do you conserve it with animal skin, or do you use something different?
Yeah, it depends. We use Japanese tissues a lot because they're so flexible, they're easy to remove, they're very subtle. But no, you can use skins. There's methods in which you can really thin skins down to make repairs, but it's a very case by case basis.
Where do you get it from? That's not something you're going to.
Oh, there's a parchment maker called Cowley's that's still going and has been around for centuries, I believe, and they provide parchment for Parliament for laws and deeds. I believe. I think there was some struggles with that in recent history, whereby they were going to move away from that. But that craft in the UK, I believe they're the last parchment makers in the UK. So it's incredibly important to keep that going.
When I worked at Wookey Hole Caves and was doing like guided tours, but papermaking demos and things, I found out that most of the bills from the Irish Parliament had been written and printed on paper made in Wookey Hole. And as part of finding that out, I discovered that all the moulds that were made for the papermaking and all of the watermark sewing on of the copper banding that was on there for it, apparently there was only one guy in the entire country that knew how to do it properly. And I think he's since died.
Oh no.
I think. I could be horrendously wrong. But yeah, that's sort of what we found out. And I kind of thought, what a shame to lose such a tactile, important piece of cultural history. But at the same time, I was like, but put it on a computer. Like now you would, if you were going to start something like that now, you would put it on a computer. But there is something about putting something into physical form that makes it feel legitimate, I suppose. I had no idea that there was one parchment maker
I believe
still
so.
going.
Yeah.
Who's other than the UK Parliament? Who's buying parchment?
Well,
You guys.
Conservators. Bookbinders, Conservators.
Just keep them in business.
Yeah.
How big? Like that's a fairly significant thing. How big's the industry? It can't be.
I don't know.
Huge.
Yeah.
Or is
I
it?
don't know.
Do most people work? Most people work for institutions like you do, or are there?
Oh, Conservators. I thought you
No, not parchment makers.
I thought you meant parchment makers.
Yes, the institution of parchment makers. I would hope that they have like an annual get together. The three of them in the world gather in a room around a pig. I don't know. What do you make parchment out of?
Well, calf, sheep, pig.
Calf. I can make it out of my
goat.
calf. That's fine. Yeah, I'm not using it anymore. No, Conservators. How many? Is it huge or tiny?
No.
Comparatively?
Yeah. Profession-wise, compared to others, we're relatively small.
Yeah. Niche.
Yeah, mysterious. Yeah, so, but as I said, there's many different strands of conservation. So there's paintings, ceramics, textiles, book and paper. So,
yeah, but book and paper is clearly best because it's functional.
Well, I would say that.
You'd have to say that.
No, I don't have to. I just want to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But it's going back to sort of the whole dad being an archival conservator.
Yeah, book and paper, essentially.
No, I'm going to use your words. Archival conservator. Sure, I'm listening. And doing paintings and things. That's kind of cool. From a growing up point of view, do you think that I'm rewinding a little bit to an earlier part of this, but do you think that brought the two of you a bit closer together?
Yeah, I think so. It's nice to have the shared profession, shared interest. It's nice to be able to ring home and say what I've done with my day, and my parents know what I'm talking about, which I think for most of my colleagues, it's quite difficult to sort of fully comprehend what we do at an intricate level. But with my dad, it's
family and friends gloss over and like, I don't understand. You used what chemical on what parchment to repair a how old thing?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not even repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
That is kind of good. Do you get a sense of competition with him? Is there no? It's all support.
Not. No. Yeah, we've definitely. Yeah, it's nice that we have our own roots, but it's a shared thing as well.
Yeah.
So.
You've done classes together, right? You've presented together.
Well, we've run some paper making courses together, which is quite nice.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah. You
did that at, I don't want to cover too much family stuff, but you did that at nursery, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I did.
I saw a picture on your Instagram of paper making.
Well, because my dad, I was quite keen to do that. My son's nursery put out a request for parents with interesting jobs. And the examples they gave...
And they looked at yours and went, what?
Well, the examples they gave were a police officer, firefighter, etc. And I was like, oh, mine's quite cool. And I particularly was quite keen to do that because my dad used to do that when I was at school. He used to come in and do paper making and we'd bind books and things. And yeah, I was like... And toddlers love getting messy, and paper making is all water. So
I
you're
have
suspending
noticed.
pulp in water and
Yeah.
plunging your arms into it, and yeah, so
It's
they
kind of
loved it.
nice. What's the physical version of ASMR? Because I sort of feel like
Oh, I
that's
don't know.
if cleaning Darwin's squeaky beans is ASMR, there's like the
Yeah.
physical sensation of plunging a mold and a decal into a vat of
Yeah.
slushy
Suspended
pulp is
Yeah.
it is fascinating. I
Yeah.
used to enjoy it, and it was very, very
Yeah,
strange.
and I got them sort of stamping on the boards to press the water out, so they were jumping around on those. So
Did you do the thing
Yeah.
where we used to do? You put your fist in it to make a fake little footprint, and you can do 5 little
Oh,
thumbprints on
no,
top of his feet.
didn't do that.
There you go. Wow, I'm book and paper conservator, learning something. I think that's really good because it's important for kids, particularly at that age, because our kids are virtually of an age. There's like half a year between them.
Yeah.
But it's important, I think, for them to get exposure to that kind of part of culture and part of life early on.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that, is there a way that people need to experience that and can experience that more if they want to? Like, if someone watches this and says, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yeah.
what would they do?
I don't know. I think just doing craft with your children, really.
Yeah.
Explore using paper and enjoying physical books, and going to galleries and exhibitions, and yeah.
It is important, but that's part of it as well. Like the artistic side and the experiencing of culture. Like when I started doing film stuff way back when, was I suppose that when I went to drama school were my first real forays into what you might call something creative or artistic. Like my degree's in journalism, and it never felt. I think you would speak to most journalists and they would say yes, it's creative because there's writing involved. But for me, it never felt as creative. Maybe that's my own problem because I never really let myself go. But when I went to drama school, I started going to museums and I started going to art galleries and experiencing more and more of all this stuff. And there are loads. Is it for Cambridge University Library anyway? Is there anything that people can go and see?
Yeah, we have an exhibition. Yeah, we have an exhibition centre. So I've just finished helping install the latest one, which is Murder by the Book. So that's all crime novels. So that's quite fun.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and we've loaned Agatha Christie's typewriter for it. So that's there, and her dictaphone. And I was working on The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, which is classed as, I think it's claimed to be the first crime novel. It's about 1868, I think it dates.
That feels really
Which feels
recent.
quite late. Yeah, it does.
No, I would dispute that. There must be older crime novels.
Well, I'm not the expert, but yeah. But I enjoyed working with that because that I did a spine repair on that, which was nice. So
yeah,
you can go and see it now.
I might actually go and see it now. I went. Joey, my wife, and I went to the Zoological Museum.
That's brilliant. Yeah,
it's really good. Our daughter ran around it for a little bit, and then we were like, "Okay, we're done here." But it is fantastic. I miss going to museums. And
Cambridge has so many as well.
Does.
Yeah, there's so many small museums which are really nice.
Yeah. You sort of think museum, or like big fancy museum, and you think London, but actually, because I'm not far from Cambridge, there's loads there that I've not bothered to find out.
I've been living there since 2013, and I think I've been to about 3. So
it's more than me.
There are many, many of them.
Yeah, I'm going to blame COVID for not going to most of them, from my side of things. But that's by the by, I suppose. But it's important, I think, for people to go and experience museums and see culture and see history.
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's this sort of risk, particularly with digitizing a lot of stuff now and the accessibility of information? Do you think there's a risk that the physical side of all of this heritage starts falling away?
I'm sure there's some statistic somewhere where they've proven that if people can access the digital version of something, it actually piques their interest in seeing the real thing. So I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, and as we were saying before, I think the sort of tangible feel you get from being with that item, it's very gratifying. We assist with readers with handling sometimes as part of our job. And sometimes there's some readers who are just skipping with excitement at being in the physical presence of items. There was one reader who was looking at a scroll, and I was unfurling it for her. And every time I unfurled, she was literally squealing with excitement and just beside herself that she was in the presence of this item and looking at it in the flesh. And
It means so much to
yeah,
people.
and she'd seen it digitized prior, but there was just something about being in the presence of the actual item
Yeah,
that you can't put a price on. And she'd flown from America
just
to
for
see
that.
it. Yeah, well, I think she had some other plans too.
I would hope so. I'm going to see the scroll.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a career choice, then fair enough. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the America side of things is kind of cool. Don't you get people sending you stuff from all over the world?
Well, the library houses
Yeah.
things from all over the world. As I said, there's Chinese oracle bones.
Which you can loan me because I need a sense of my future. I have no idea where I'm going next.
But we have Japanese collections, Korean, all European, American. Yeah, we have huge, broad range of items, mainly material that's been donated to us over the years.
Other than the bean, what's the weirdest thing?
Well, I was reflecting on this on the train. That was quite unusual. There was one day the head of rare books came down to conservation and said, "I've just found this." Pulled out this giant book. It naturally fell open and there was a cookie in it.
Okay.
Which looked like it had been there for a very long time. A centuries old biscuit, potentially, that someone had
Some kid has just
been
slotted
nibbling on and thrown it into the gutter of the book, slammed it shut, and
Left it for a few
that was a
hundred
bit
years.
unusual.
I love that. Little bits of stuff,
Social
like,
history.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much stuff about like historical conservation and history in general that people treat with this sort of academic sense that it was all one certain way. It was
Yeah.
very pristine, and actually,
Yeah.
the past is a fucking mess.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's
love
nice.
it.
It's, as I say, these items capture that in the way that they're made, the mistakes that were made in making them. Or they're not even mistakes, they're just part of what make them human.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
no, we
the
have all
important
sorts
thing.
of things. I'm trying to think of something else unusual. We have feathers. Again, they're part of the Darwin archive. People were sending Darwin feathers.
Just of pigeons.
Yeah, I think peacock feathers actually.
Peacock feathers, okay.
And pheasants. Anything you could think of.
It's that sort of sense of what becomes historical, what makes something of historical value.
Yeah.
And that's tied up in what makes something art or sort of scientifically important. Are there bits that you've worked on that you've held in awe and thought, oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this?
I think I just love the variety
Yeah.
of material that we have and the challenges they all pose, and yeah, I don't know, things that I'd be in awe of.
It's hard, I suppose, because like, if you've been there for 10, 11 years, there
Yeah.
are so many things that must have crossed that path. Desk, have you got desk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bench.
Bench, crossed your bench. That I guess you've sort of, that have either formed part of your own personal history, even if it's recent things like the spitting image masks,
Yeah.
and stuff that you must have been cursorily aware of when you were younger, like stuff belonging to Darwin.
Yeah.
But then presumably things that are thousands of years old that you'd only know about either if you were a historian or
Yeah.
in conservation.
Yeah, because we're not specialists in the history of items, so
Yeah.
quite often we're learning about them as we go. We're bringing the material aspect to it. So yeah, I don't know. Without sounding sad, I just find everything fascinating. Just learning about whatever I'm working with. But you know, we have some first edition Jane Austen novels, for example, and obviously they're amazing. I'm a huge fan of hers. And then you've got there's Codex Zachynthius, that's this palimpsest giant medieval beast of a book that's got 9th or 6th century underscript in it, and that's
I have no idea
awe-inspiring.
what underscript is.
Oh, so it was a book that had a previous use. So the parchment
And
was
it's printed over the
used,
top.
written. Yeah,
Written
it's a
over the top.
manuscript. Yeah, so they've scraped back, they've repurposed the pages from a bigger document
Yeah.
and tried to erase the ink, and then thought, oh, I'll use that for my book.
They've upcycled.
Yes, yeah. I think it's 6th or 7th or 8th century underscript with a 12th century, and it's at a right angle because they've turned the parchment and
Right.
folded it again.
Are you?
Yeah,
with
that's gone through multispectral imaging
I was
to
going to say,
read
can you see
that.
the layers?
You can, but the multispectral imaging it went through really helped that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you can actually see what the original piece was before it was then reused.
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't just a shopping list.
I don't believe so. I'm not a
No.
linguist, so unfortunately I'm not
Yeah.
able to read a lot of the things that I'm working with, but we have experts in the library who work with us, so
And do that bit of thing.
they can check things are the right way up.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
I seem to recall watching a documentary once that said that the earliest piece of writing that we have is a cuneiform shopping list,
Probably.
which I guess makes sense.
Yeah.
Somehow. I really like that. I've enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Oh,
coming.
no problem.
I think that's a good note to end on. So I'm going to do a little questionnaire,
Oh, no.
which I have shamelessly nabbed from James Lipton from Inside the Actors Studio, but then he also nicked it from Bernard Pivot. So I feel justified. Let's see where we go. What's your favourite word?
Dreich, which
What?
accurately describes the day as the rain hammers down. So it's a Scottish word, and it basically means foul weather.
Foul weather.
Yeah.
Can you pass it? It's dreichin? Can you?
Dreich. I don't think so.
It's just dreich.
Just Dreich.
I
Yeah.
can't pronounce words that are not English because I'm crap. What's your least favourite word?
Probably Dreich.
For the same reason.
Mainly because of what it means, and I enjoy the sun. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's a sound or noise that you love?
The people I love laughing, which sounds really sad, but yeah, just best sound.
Yeah. I'd
Family
agree
and
with that.
friends, have a good time.
It's a running theme. What's a
Yeah.
sound or noise that you hate?
Polystyrene.
Polystyrene.
Yeah, hate polystyrene.
Scraping fingers.
Oh,
and, yeah, no.
It's just so, squeaky and plasticky and
When I lived
horrible.
in Norway, there was an advert that would go on just before the news or the weather. I think it was the weather, and it was a woman who walked up to the camera, cracked her knuckles, walked back, and scraped her fingers down a blackboard wall. It's like, oh, horrible.
No.
What inspires you creatively or professionally, personally?
My colleagues, they're all amazing. They're from all over the world. We have people from Australia, Brazil, UK, Ireland. Yeah, they're all amazing, and it's easy to get. We all ride on each other's enthusiasm and love for what we do, but also just feeling like we're making a difference, and that things hopefully leave the studio with more of a chance of surviving than they do when they arrive, which is very gratifying.
I like that a lot. What makes you cross?
What makes me cross? Arrogance. I don't like arrogance or a lack of respect for things.
Yeah.
People, animals,
Yeah.
the environment.
I think that works.
Yeah, selfishness maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. If they were going to release a new banknote, who do you think should be on it?
Ooh. I went to an exhibition at Newnham College, Cambridge, yesterday actually with some colleagues, and they have an exhibition on Bletchley Park, which was just fascinating, learning more about that. So probably maybe Joan Clark or one of the women that worked there. Just learning that there was 7,500 women or so that worked there, and that their work wasn't even disclosed until the 70s, 80s, and the government didn't acknowledge them until 2009 or something.
Another bit of Googling for me.
Yeah, so
I like that a lot.
just, giving them some...
A little bit kudos.
Yeah.
A little bit of recognition.
Yeah, and there's a statistic that predicts that the collective work they did there ended the war 2 years earlier
That's amazing.
and saved millions of lives. So
You definitely have
unsung
to go
heroes.
and research that. If you were going to attempt a profession other than your own, what would it be?
Probably working with dogs.
Working with dogs? That's
Yeah.
different to books.
Yeah, probably working with dogs for the reasons of medical, like cancer detection,
Yeah.
medical assistance dogs. Yeah, I just feel like we're greatly underusing their skills, and they love us so much and want to help, and we're not working with them enough. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I love them. So,
I like that.
yeah,
What would you least like to do as a profession?
sit at a computer all day.
Yeah. Anything that does that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like being on the move and using my hands and
Yeah.
probably a desk job.
See, most of my job is spent at a computer, so I'm kind of
And
with you
so
there.
is I do spend a fair amount of mine writing reports and that. But the best part of my day is
Up at
when
the
I'm not
bench.
doing that bit.
If the afterlife exists, what would you like them to say when you arrive?
Everyone you care about that's gone before are waiting.
I love the specific that's gone before.
That's gone before.
Yeah.
Just to
Everyone you
clarify.
love is waiting. Like,
Oh,
no. That would be horrendous.
Yeah.
On that
No,
note.
it'd be nice to reunite
Yeah.
with people.
I am sweet.
Yeah.
I would go for It's About Time. I'm going to have that one. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed
Thanks
it.
for having me.
We'll catch up with you in a bit.
Yeah.